start this? Just be like, hello, hello.
I don't know.
I'm just gonna be like, all right.
Hi, sisters.
Hey, sisters.
Hello, brother. Wait, what is it? What's up, brother?
What's up, brother?
What's up, brother?
Okay. I feel so awkward. Anyway. Hello, hello. How are you doing today? This is, I guess, a new podcast that me and my best friend are starting. It's me, Kaylee, and then Mitch, my co-host.
Hi.
Today I'm going to be teaching him a lot about, I guess, like some aspects of femininity, not necessarily femininity, but also people who have uteruses, people who can carry babies, etc. Before I get into the content and before we talk about anything else, I do just want to put a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode, because we are going to get into heavy topics like miscarriage and really in depth about the types of miscarriages, I guess, and the types of pregnancies there are. So if that might trigger something for you, then I would maybe consider either listening at your own risk or just skipping this altogether. Alrighty.
I didn't even know there were multiple types of miscarriages. I thought it was just a miscarriage.
It's not like multiple types. It's just like there's different ways that a miscarriage can happen. So
Right.
like there's a miscarriage that just expels itself out of your own body, like all on its own. Then there's miscarriages that might require some medical intervention, and then there's also miscarriages that could require more than just medical intervention, like possible abortion, possible surgery, stuff like that.
Can they also be, like, classified by how that, like, death occurs? Because when I think of miscarriages, I always think of Gone with the Wind, if you've seen that film.
I have not, actually.
So the main character is a woman, and she's pregnant with this man's child, and she's at the top of the staircase, and I watched this movie when I was like 13, so I actually don't remember it that well, but I'm pretty sure she like fell down the stairs, and that like blunt force trauma to her like belly
Right.
killed that baby.
Yeah.
But then some women, in my experience, like will just miscarry basically naturally. Like it just kind of happens. There's
Right.
nothing they could have done to prevent it.
Right. Yeah, we're definitely going to get into all of that in just a second. I want to open the floor to you to potentially ask or put your thoughts out there as to what you're bringing to the table.
Like what I think miscarriages are, because
Not
it's
necessarily
not a
just
great opinion. I don't know
miscarriages.
much.
Not necessarily miscarriages, just like anything in general regarding like females. Like something maybe you would want to know that I might not have included, but I can give you personal like experience on. Or did you want to go ahead and wait until the end to like ask those questions?
I'll probably think of something to ask later down the line. I don't know if I
Gotcha.
can think of anything right up like on the spot.
Right. Okay. Well, I guess we're just going to go ahead and get in with the miscarriages. So, first of all, I wanted to inform you about miscarriages. There's a variety of, like, reasons as to why a miscarriage might happen. It is almost never preventable, like, at all. If you're going to have a miscarriage, it's kind of inevitable. One of the, like, whenever I was in sex ed in in middle school, I went to a Catholic school for reference, so the fact that we even learned about miscarriage is kind of crazy. Although it is probably God's plan. That's what we learned, that it was God's plan. But we were, yeah.
I've seen that before. Like, so I was watching an episode of The Last of Us, and there was this like church group. Keep on, this show takes place 20 years into the apocalypse. This
Right.
church group of people who are like super strong believers in God, and this little girl this little girl's father
Sorry, that's my dog
died,
in the background.
right? And they're talking about the group is talking about this 10-year-old girl's father dying, and she's like asking questions because she doesn't really know. And this pastor is just like, he was intended to die. Like, this was God's plan, and I just
Right.
cannot imagine something so tragic happening and someone telling me, oh, that was supposed to happen. God wanted that person dead. Like, absolutely not. If you
Yeah.
told me that, I'd probably lose my faith immediately.
See, that's one of the things. I mean, I know this isn't like a deep rooted faith podcast. I'm not really in the faith anymore, but that's one of the things that I couldn't really get over whenever we would talk about this kind of stuff, because it's just like, why would he want someone to die and someone to suffer? Like, I know it's supposed to be God's plan, but we're not going to get into that right now. We could do a whole other, like,
I'm sure we could.
we could
I'm
do a
so
whole
sure
other
we could.
episode about me teaching you about the faith and just stuff like that, things that I experienced, because I have a lot of religious trauma, but that's not the point of this episode. So, yes, I did want to, like, get into what I was taught in sex ed, because it wasn't super informative. It was just like, oh yeah, the baby dies, woman expels it, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But because abortion was not really, like, obviously we didn't discuss that in that setting, because it's not believed. Like, they don't believe in that. We didn't talk about the abortion part. We would talk about the miscarriage part and how it was part of God's plan, but what I was gonna get at with that topic is that I was always taught it's the body rejecting a foreign object or body. So whenever a woman experiences a miscarriage, most of the time it happens in the first trimester, so within the first 20 weeks of pregnancy, although it can happen later, which is called a later term miscarriage, but those are a little bit more rare. But having a miscarriage within the first trimester is a very common thing, unfortunately, and, like, a lot of women go through it.
Right.
But I was always told that it's because the fetus is not, or I should say the embryo isn't fully a fetus yet, so your body's still trying to get used to the fact that there's this new object, or I don't want to say object because it's not. This new.
I mean, that's how the body recognizes it.
Right,
It's a
yeah,
foreign
it-
object that's not supposed to be
yeah,
there.
exactly, yes. It does recognize it as a foreign body, foreign object, such, and that's why some women, or I should say people who experience pregnancy, because it's not always women, that's why miscarriages happen some of the time.
Right.
And there's other risk factors and stuff, obviously, which I will be getting into in just a second, but I did want to put that out there. Like I said, it is a common thing that people deal with, unfortunately. Some symptoms include bleeding from the vagina with or without pain, pain or cramping in the pelvic area or lower back, fluid or tissue passing from the vagina, or fast heartbeat. So, like, in other words, like, your blood pressure goes up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's because your body's, like...
It's called
basically-
tachycardia.
Exactly, yes. So, I wanted to get into some of the causes. So, the first... All of this information, right, for the miscarriage section is coming from a source by, let me find it real quick. Where is it at? Oh, okay. It's from the mayoclinic.org. It's from the mayoclinic.org. It's an article on miscarriage, specifically.
Okay.
I just wanted to put that out there before I read any more information. That's where all of this information came from. So the first cause could be an embryonic pregnancy. It happens when there's no embryo that forms, or the embryo forms, but it's absorbed back into the body.
Okay, so those are, like, essentially doomed from the start. Like, there's no way that's
Yeah,
gonna carry out.
pretty much, yeah.
So
But-
whenever like, oh, you're pregnant, do they know, like, the doctors, they know right then and there that it's not gonna, like, they can see through the ultrasound or whatever?
It depends, because a lot of people don't find out that they're pregnant until, like, 4 weeks after they're actually pregnant.
Right.
So a majority, like, these embryonic pregnancies pretty much happen before anybody even realizes that they're pregnant. So it could happen to literally anybody, but a lot of people just see it as, like, a period or something like that. Like,
I've
it's
met
just...
one person who did, like, they lost their baby
Mm-hmm.
before they knew they were pregnant.
Right.
She ended up, like, naming the baby and everything. And I remember thinking, that's the quickest way to ruin a name for you. Like, now you can't use that name.
Yeah, but also, like, as someone that has a like actual physical connection to these fetuses and babies and stuff, like it's kind of, you think of a name almost instantly, and once you find something that attaches to that, it's
So
already
there's an
got its
aspect of
place.
postpartum, even though you didn't know that there was a
Yes,
baby
because
there.
all the hormones and stuff are still there.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, like as soon as implantation happens, all those like pregnancy hormones and stuff start happening, which is why a
Right.
lot of women are like super hormonal, super into like just like super all over the place.
Their body's got a lot going on.
Right,
Pretty
right.
much all the time.
Yes, exactly. So the next thing that happens is intrauterine fetal demise. So basically, this is whenever the embryo forms, but it stops developing. So the fetus is dead before the loss actually occurs, which is a really unfortunate way to find out, because that happens to a lot of women, unfortunately. It's basically like stillbirth, but within the first
Okay.
20 weeks, yeah.
Stillbirth in the first. Huh? I thought stillbirth was like they carry throughout the entire.
Yes, but stillborn babies and stuff like that typically are alive up until the very last trimester.
Right.
So like it's like early pregnancy stillbirth, if
Okay.
that makes sense. It's just a miscarriage, but I would see it as a like stillbirth,
Right.
because it's still a fetus that was alive at one point and then died.
Okay.
That's
I
another
came up
one.
with a question to ask, but I'm gonna let you go through this first, obviously.
Okay, yeah. So the next one is a molar pregnancy and partial molar pregnancy. So a molar pregnancy is where the fetus doesn't develop. So this happens when both sets of chromosomes come from the sperm. So like mom and dad's sperm come together. Oh my god. Mom and dad's gametes, which is like the egg and the
sperm
sperm,
and the egg, yeah.
come together and they fuse chromosomes. But molar pregnancy happens only when all of the chromosomes come from the sperm.
Interesting.
So it basically takes over the egg, in
Yeah.
other words. In a partial molar pregnancy, the fetus may develop but can't survive. So this is typically called by triploidy. So where the chromosomes fuse, but like in a weird way. So like the chromosomes from both parents fuse, but they don't really fuse fully, and they fuse in a really weird way, so it causes triploidy. I'm sure you learned about that in biology.
I did. That was a rough class, though. I
Yeah.
remember close to nothing about it.
That's why, like, I also feel the same way. But these types of pregnancies can't continue due to the risk of pregnancy organs causing health problems and sometimes even cancer, due to the fact that these are like mutations, basically.
Okay.
They do, however, live for a little bit longer, which is really unfortunate because the fetus is suffering.
Okay. And they usually don't know that that fetus is suffering until it's
No.
already gone.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Or until they catch it. So like if they do find out they're pregnant early on and the embryo does start to like actually form into like a fetus looking. So the way that an embryo looks is like it looks like the egg, but then if you look at like the cycle of pregnancy, it starts to look like a fish, and then it starts to look like a tadpole kind of,
Yeah, I think
and then
I've
it
seen
starts to look like a
pictures and
human.
stuff.
Once it starts to get into that tadpole phase, that's whenever they can start to tell whether
Is there any
a
intervention
problem.
possible, or is it just like there's nothing they can do?
there's not really anything they can do. Once triploidy happens, that's DNA.
Right. Yeah. There's no
It's
going
DNA.
back
You
on
can't
that
really
as
you
DNA.
can't really do anything
Right.
to help that. And then another cause of miscarriage could be maternal health problems. So like uncontrolled diabetes, infections, hormonal problems, uterus or cervix problems,
Right.
thyroid disease, or obesity. This is something we actually did kind of talk about miscarriage the other day, because you were bringing up an unfortunate circumstance that happened to a coworker.
Right.
And I was gonna try to tell you all this stuff, but then I was like, wait, this is a good topic for the podcast.
Yeah. Don't
like,
spoil it.
I don't want to say good topic in that sense, but I feel like this is a very information heavy
It's a good talking
area,
point.
right? Because a lot of people don't know about it, and a lot of people assume that either the mom did something wrong, or there was just something.
I would never assume.
Yeah, exactly. But some people unfortunately do, which is really.
Oh yeah,
really
I mean
sad.
yeah, you know how like the general society is.
I mean,
if they
we
want
were-
to find a way to blame a woman for something, they will.
We were just watching the show. It's called For Alabama Shore. It's a trashy reality TV show, but
Right.
one of the characters, her name is Nilsa. She was married before she came on the show, and then they revealed like a season later or something like that she had ended up having a miscarriage. Like they were trying for a baby, and she ended up having a miscarriage. And her husband divorced her because he said, "You can't carry my children. Like F you, basically. Like you're useless."
That's
So he divorced her, which that's what I was
absolutely
trying to get at. It sucks. It's stupid.
insane to blame the woman for that, because infertility is like a thing,
It is
obviously.
awful. It is
And
awful.
that's completely like natural, and some women and some men just can't have kids.
Right.
And that's very tragic. And to divorce someone for that reason, I don't want to say is completely invalid, because if your end goal is to have biological children and you can't get that from your partner,
Right.
that's a good enough reason. But I think with just one miscarriage, that's not at all enough reason to be like, nope, you can't have kids.
I mean, obviously there was other problems in the marriage, but like, I mean,
Oh, absolutely, I can tell.
right. Spoiler alert: she did end up finding a good man, get married, and have a healthy baby. So,
I remember seeing that.
Yeah. So I wanted to move on after that to miscarriages are not caused by. They are not caused by exercise, but it is recommended that you talk to your doctor about what a healthy amount of exercise for you would look like, because it depends on the person. There's different
Yep.
there's different forms and I guess ways to exert yourself that might not be good. Sex cannot cause a miscarriage. So whenever a man finds out that a woman is pregnant and they don't want to have sex with you because they don't want to hit the baby's head and kill it, that is not one of the reasons.
Oh my god.
I actually
That's not
heard
funny.
that. No, I know, but I heard that one day. I heard that, dude.
It's just ding dong ditch.
Oh, terrible. A miscarriage cannot be caused by an argument. This was one of the
You
one
don't
of the
think
list of
like
things.
stress levels? There's no amount of stress that can like actually affect the baby.
I'm sure there's stress because stress is involved in hormones, which hormones was also like a reason for miscarriage, but
Yep.
like an argument itself can't cause a
Right.
miscarriage.
Yeah, but in my mind, I'm thinking like, if an argument gets escalated enough to where it can stress the pregnant person out that much, that could affect the baby.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure.
I used to make jokes to a coworker that was pregnant, that like she would get really stressed out from all her tables, and I'd be like, your kid's gonna come out with anxiety if you keep stressing over these tables. And I know that's not true, but I like to joke about things like that. Or like they'll be eating like jalapenos, and I'll be like, your kid's gonna come out with an attitude if you keep doing that.
The attitude is funny. Miscarriage, I mean, no, not the anxiety one. Kind of true.
Oh, that's actually, there's truth to that.
Kind of.
Interesting.
I don't wanna
Maybe they
wanna,
come out
like,
predisposed to developing an anxiety disorder.
it's very genetic. Like, my mom has anxiety, and I have severe anxiety.
I learned in, funnily enough, my English class last semester that you can't really be born with something like that. You're born predisposed to it, but it
Yes.
still depends on how you develop
Oh, yeah.
throughout your childhood.
Mhm.
So there's some adjustment psychology at play there.
Right. I see what you did there. Let's keep going through this list because it's going to take us forever to get through this. Working, as long as you're not around radiation or harmful chemicals all at the same time, like too much of it,
Yeah.
or even at all, can't cause a miscarriage. And then using birth control pills before you get pregnant. Even people with
Yeah.
like IUDs have babies and they come out holding freaking IUD. Like that's first of all funny to me, but also kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
It's just a risk that people need to be aware of. Talking about IUDs and like other forms of internal birth control, not the pill. Some risk factors that we're gonna get into, like for sure. One is age. There's a higher risk of miscarriage if you're 35 years or older.
Okay.
Just because of like the biological clock. Like your body's obviously not gonna be in tip-top shape for forever.
Yeah.
And yeah, and menopause and stuff is a very real thing. Obviously, it happens to almost every. Well, I don't want to say every woman. It happens to all people who have periods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Past miscarriage can be if you had one or more miscarriages in the past, it increases your risk of getting another one, which
Really?
is really unfortunate. Yeah.
So it's like a snowball effect almost.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
It is terrible. Long-term conditions such as health conditions, like uncontrolled diabetes, can result in a higher risk just because you're not taking care of yourself. There's
2 different types of diabetes.
yeah, but either or, like even if it is uncontrolled, it's still not good.
I mean, I know it's not good, but that
yeah.
one's more like you can't help that one. You're born with that.
Right.
My granny had that one.
You.
I say had. She still has it. She is still alive. She's still kicking.
Just like go away.
Diabetes be damned. Michelle is still alive.
Yay, Michelle. Okay, so another one is a uterine or cervical problem, such as like endometriosis, uterine cysts, ovarian cysts.
A lot of people have that.
There's other like cervical issues. You could get cervical, I don't want to say warts, but you can just have like, there's conditions that cause a woman's pelvic floor to be really painful during sex. So that could be a problem because there's an issue with the pelvic floor.
Yep.
Like your body, it might be a lot more painful for you to have a baby because obviously if it hurts to have sex, it's going to hurt to have a baby.
Yeah.
Smoking, alcohol, caffeine, and illegal drug use.
Like before pregnancy can still be a risk factor for miscarriage.
Before and during.
During, I mean, that's like common knowledge, I'd
Right.
say. Substance use, alcohol consumption, all of that's like a
Right.
no-no for anyone that's pregnant.
I do want to point out that caffeine, not necessarily terrible. I will get into that in a few minutes. But we'll get into it. Smoking, alcohol, and illegal drugs. Obviously, please do not do that while you're pregnant.
Cigarettes included?
Yeah. And for the people who say, like, I'm sure there's some truth to this. I did not do the full research because I did not want to. Not, like, for this particular episode. But there are some people who will say at the end of, like, pregnancy, like, your last trimester, it's okay to have a glass of wine. Please do not do that. Like, I'm not sure, like, internally, I'm not a doctor. I don't know all these things. I'm not sure of all of the, like, truth to that, but do not do that. Talk to your doctor before you do that. Don't just have a glass of wine and be like, yeah, it's fine. She'll be fine. The baby will be fine.
Honestly, my brother's birth is like a miracle thinking of it because according to my father, my mother was like smoking and drinking during pregnancy with my brother because she didn't really want to have him. She was content with just me.
I was about to say something awful.
Utter it. Speak it.
I was gonna say that's why the autism.
I don't know. Maybe.
No, I don't. I
like,
don't
you can
think that's why the autism
I
is
don't
just
know.
really poorly.
You're the one that
timed.
knows things about women. I don't. My
Well,
brother
I don't-
was. He was definitely. He has like health problems though. Like, he gets like lightheaded all the time. I'm pretty sure he has anemia.
Probably so,
Like
yeah.
that dude has a lot of things wrong with his body just in general, which is probably from the smoking and the
But
drinking.
there is a such thing as fetal alcohol syndrome.
I don't know about all that, but maybe. I
don't
kind of
think he
forget
has
what
it.
fetal alcohol
I
syndrome
don't
looks like.
think that he has fetal alcohol syndrome because he definitely does not show any of the characteristics, but there's definitely some like internal issues that could have caused.
Yeah, I think my dad might have been a little bit exaggerating.
Probably
Like, she
so.
probably did
'Cause there is some-
smoke and drink, but maybe not to the extent that he was trying to
There
imply that she
was
was.
some animosity between your parents.
Yeah. That's another podcast episode.
Yeah. Moving on, because that was a lot.
Back to miscarriages.
Weight can be a cause, so like being underweight or overweight can pose a higher risk.
Yeah.
Genetic conditions, so one partner can carry a genetic condition but not know that they have this. For example, one partner could have a unique chromosome that formed when the pieces of two different kinds of chromosomes came together and attached to each other, which is called translocation, as we both know. I was a biology major before I became a psychology major, so I have a little bit of genetic knowledge. Not too much though. I kind of forgot about it.
I'm a biology minor and I don't know any of it. I'm 3 years into
Fair
this
enough.
degree.
Fair enough. If either parent carries this chromosome, then passing it to the unborn child makes miscarriage more likely. So it's not impossible for it to live, but it will make its life a little bit more difficult, and it will make miscarriage a lot more likely to happen.
Yep.
There are some complications that happen with miscarriage. We're going to first talk about a septic miscarriage, which is whenever someone has a miscarriage, they don't really know about it. If they do know about it, they didn't fully expel all of the like flesh and fluid and stuff, and this can cause them to go septic, which the symptoms of that are fever higher than 100.4, my bad, excuse me, Fahrenheit for more than like 2 times. So like if you get
Two separate occasions?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you go up in fever one day to 100.4, then you go back down like later on that day or the next day, and then the day after that you go back up. That could be a symptom of sepsis.
And that could put the mother's life at risk, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because
that's one of those
it's an
like you're gonna
internal
have to like
infection.
get rid of that baby.
Well, it's a blood infection, so yeah.
Yeah.
The next is chills, pain in the lower stomach area, foul-smelling discharge, and vaginal bleeding. Yeah, I know we're getting kind of into it, but
yeah.
It is a very real thing, and it's very dangerous. That's why I don't agree with people saying that abortions for miscarriages are getting rid of the baby, because the mom could die,
It's
and then
saving
there would
the
never
mother's
be any
life.
babies
And
coming
fun
from
fact,
that mom.
this mother is very much alive, and this baby might not be. So
Right. And before I get into it, I do want to say that I was told this by one of my old counselors. Not therapy counselors, but like camp counselors for one of my retreats whenever I was
they tried
Catholic.
to tell you that like it was wrong to like basically save the mother's life in favor of this like fetus.
Basically, yeah. They were just like, oh, you shouldn't still though, because it's dead. You need to let it rest in peace. And it's like, you can't let it rest in peace if it's still in there and the mom's gonna die as well.
It's not resting in peace. There's no peace. That kid's trying to kill the mother.
Not on purpose, but
I mean, yeah, not on purpose, but like
there's what they
your
were
dog's got
trying-
rabies. Are you just gonna let the dog live in peace? That dog is gonna kill someone.
Right. Well,
It doesn't mean to, but it will.
Well, in other words, basically what they're saying is like, if they want to abort the dead fetus, it's not letting the body run its natural course, which I kind of get, but at the same time, no, because a lot of their reasoning too is that they don't care. They do care. It's tough. It is really tough to go through something like this, as we're going to get into in a second. It's not fair to say that. We're just going to move on though, because I don't want to get this argument heated, this topic heated, because it will, and I will get upset.
It's not really an argument because we literally agree on this.
Not argument. I just meant like conversation.
Yeah.
There's another complication that could happen from a miscarriage, and it's hemorrhaging.
Okay.
So hemorrhaging is basically like excessive bleeding, and like almost like bursting of a blood vessel.
Yep.
That is very difficult to control or stop.
You can get those in the brain too.
Some of the
Those will kill your ass.
that's an aneurysm.
Yes, brain hemorrhage and aneurysm are like synonymous, right?
I don't know.
I think they are. Because that's what
I'm not a
aneurysm is. It's
biology
the bursting
major
of
nor
a
a
blood
medical
vessel in the
professional.
brain.
I have no idea.
I don't know. See, neither of us have experience with aneurysms.
No, thankfully. Knock on
Not
wood.
yet.
Knock on wood. Anyway, some of the symptoms, or I guess signs of hemorrhaging, could be heavy bleeding, fast heartbeat, dizziness from low blood pressure. Whew, slow down on my words. Tiredness or weakness due to low red blood cells, which is also called anemia.
Yep.
So those are some of the signs and symptoms of that. The next section, I don't really like the title of it. Super, I don't want to say problematic, but just not the right word. But it's called prevention. In the article itself, though, it did note that it is not always preventable,
Right.
if at all, because miscarriage is really hard to obviously you can't decide whether you want to have a miscarriage or not.
I mean, there are some lifestyle choices that you can
Yeah,
make.
oh yeah, of course.
And I guess that can be considered
Right.
prevention, but at the end of the
Just
day,
precaution is
yeah.
what a better word. Precaution
Essentially,
is a better word.
yeah.
So it said it's worth noting that miscarriage is not preventable, and in any situation, do not blame yourself because it is not your fault,
Right.
regardless of what you're doing. I mean, if you're doing illicit
If you're
drugs,
drinking some Henny
if
while
you're
you
doing illicit
while you're
drugs and
pregnant,
drinking
you might have to
alcohol,
look inward, but you know.
it's still a tough thing to go through regardless.
Oh, absolutely.
So some things you can do to help and prevent, or precautionary measures. Get regular prenatal care while pregnant and after giving birth.
Okay.
So it's important to do this after giving birth as well, though, because you want to make sure everything's healing right in case you do want to have another baby.
Mm-hmm.
It will just increase your chances or lessen the chances of having a miscarriage.
Okay.
It'll just make it a little bit easier for both of you, and also just make sure that you're healthy and doing all right. Try to avoid high risk factors such as smoking, alcohol, and illicit drug use. Take a daily multivitamin or prenatal vitamins to help, because prenatal vitamins are super beneficial. I didn't do the research on prenatal vitamins themselves because that's not what we're here for right now, but just know that it is important, and that's why we always talk to our medical care providers when involved in these situations. If you have had one or more prior miscarriages, ask your health care provider if you should take a low dose of aspirin to prevent like hemorrhaging, and it just thins your blood out so that way you don't have a risk of, I guess,
blood clotting and stuff, right? Yeah.
and stuff like that, yeah. But it is also a risk to take a blood thinner, because a blood thinner will thin out your blood, and it's going to be harder to clot. It's going to be harder to clot. So if you do get like a cut or something, it will be harder for you. Oh, yeah,
that makes sense.
And then limit your caffeine. While you're pregnant, it is recommended that you have no more than 200 milligrams a day of caffeine, but it is okay to drink coffee during pregnancy. Like a cup or two a day is not going to kill you. It's always important to talk to your healthcare provider if you are experiencing anything, obviously. So that's the end of that. I did want to talk about the reason why I think it's important to know about miscarriages, because I do have a lot of people who I know personally that have gone through it. One specific person that I can think of is my mother-in-law. She had a miscarriage before she had my boyfriend, who was the oldest of 6 kids.
Yeah.
They did not know the gender of this kid, nor the sex, I should say the sex of the baby. They didn't know the sex of this baby before. So this was a first trimester miscarriage. But after they had my boyfriend, they had another miscarriage, and they did know the gender of this baby, and I'm pretty sure it was a girl.
Yep.
So this was a later term, which is really unfortunate, because once you know like the gender and stuff like that, it's pretty far in.
Yeah, and on top of that, you had mentioned that the more like miscarriages you have, it increases the likelihood to have another one.
Right.
So, in all honesty, it's a miracle that she was able to have 5 more kids after having 2 miscarriages.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my thought too.
Eli's a miracle baby.
That's his brother. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about how, like, because I never really discussed this with my mother-in-law, but I did have conversations with my father-in-law about it, and he just would talk about how, you know, upsetting it was for both of them, because it is both parties being involved. Like, that's a child that they both wanted, you know?
Right.
And they were just talking about how, like, you know, difficult it was for both of them to go through that, and how upset he was because she was obviously heartbroken, because those are her kids. She feels like she did something wrong, you know?
Is there, like, a specialized treatment plan in terms of, like, therapy for
I'm sure
mothers
there
and fathers who
is.
lose a baby?
I mean, my professor, Whitney Story, who is going to be listening to this podcast, so shout out to you, girl. They specialize in prematernal and like post-maternal.
Okay.
So just like before, during, and after, I should say, pregnancy. So I'm not really sure I should have probably asked more questions, but I'm not really sure if they discuss like therapies and stuff for miscarriages.
Yeah.
But I do know that they do help out these moms and potential, I don't want to say moms because not all of them are moms, but parents who might need assistance. But that's one of the stories of personal experience. Did you have any questions after this
I do have one.
section?
Do you know anything about how sometimes there's like twins and one can just swallow the other one whole?
See, so, okay.
Why are you giggling?
There's different kinds of twins. There's, let me see.
Identical and fraternal.
Yes. Sorry, I'm typing real quick. Okay, so there's, trying to find a picture. Okay. So there's identical twins, which are not... Hold up, I lie. Give me 1 second to actually get the correct information. I'm not going to read the information off of Pamper's website.
Pamper?
Yeah.
Like the diaper company?
Okay, here we go.
Diapies.
So there's identical twins, which are monozygotic. So basically have the same, like, embryo.
Yeah.
So identical twins typically share a placenta.
Yeah, they develop together.
Some of them can. That's where the absorption would happen.
Only if it's identical?
Only if it's identical and only if it's the same placenta. So
okay. Is that considered a miscarriage?
It's not considered a miscarriage because the other twin absorbed it.
Okay.
So, like, my friend, she actually was a twin and absorbed her twin.
Wait, who?
Kelsey.
Oh.
The one that I was telling you about from high school.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
She was a twin and she absorbed her twin. She did. Mm-hmm. They were a monozygotic, monoamniotic, which is one amniotic sac.
Okay.
Which is the placenta.
I mean, that can definitely, I can imagine, like, if the parents know that they thought they were going to have twins and then suddenly don't, that can still be, like, pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah, I would assume it'd be pretty traumatic, yeah. That is very sad. But, it typically happens, like, within the first couple trimesters, so if it doesn't happen in the first trimester, it happens really, really, really early on in the second trimester.
Okay.
It can't be, like...
It can't happen late.
Yeah, no. Because then there's problems. Like, then there'd be problems. Like, there'd be, like, bones and stuff in them.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But, yeah. And then there's also dizygotic twins, which is, like, the non-fraternal.
You mean the non-identical?
Yes.
So fraternal, yeah.
Fraternal, yes.
They can't absorb each other.
Yeah. So, anyway, enough of twin talk. Are you ready to move on to the next topic? Or do you have any more questions?
I do not have any more questions.
Okay. Next, we're going to talk about period stuff.
Oh, yay.
Okay. Do you have any pre-questions before we get in?
No, I don't.
Okay. So.
Yes, I do. Sorry. Do all mammals get periods? Like, okay, so, like...
Yes.
But not all of them, like, be bleeding, right? Because I've never seen, like, a cat bleed.
So... Miso, my girl cat, whenever she was going through heat and experiencing the cycle, she would bleed, but because they cleaned themselves so regularly, it was not always, like, as much blood.
Okay.
Yeah. But they do definitely bleed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So, the menstrual cycle is the shedding of the uterine lining of the uterus each month.
Okay.
The uterine lining is, or I should say, menstrual blood consists of, blood and tissue from inside of your uterus.
Right. Ugh.
The way, okay, this blood and tissue is, like, set up because your uterus is obviously preparing for pregnancy. So the way this is, like, one of the things that stuck with me from sex ed that I actually kind of like the explanation of. During the menstrual cycle, your body is setting up a house for this baby. So it's making the new furniture, new like wall setup, wallpaper, stuff like that. That's what the
You're explaining this to me like I'm 5.
well, this is like the funniest and also I think the best explanation I've gotten in a long time about like what it is.
Yeah.
So, it's
We're decorating the house.
yeah, you're
interior
decorating
design.
the house. You're decorating the house for the baby to go and live in for 9 months. But if the baby doesn't move in by the end of the cycle, you have to get rid of the furniture because you're getting evicted.
Okay. So, your period happens the week after ovulation?
No. So
Okay.
we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it.
Sorry, that explanation contradicts it, I feel like.
No. Ovulation. We're gonna get into it. I'm just explaining like the menstrual blood, what it is.
Yeah.
What I was explained. That's all I was talking about. I'm not talking about ovulation. Ovulation's a different beast. Okay. So the menstrual cycle is the body getting ready for pregnancy and shedding each month after to prep for a new cycle if pregnancy is not achieved.
Okay.
The cycle can last 28 days, but it also can range from 21 days to 35 days. So the cycle as a whole. So like from start, like your period.
Okay, because that's why some
after
people's
ovulation.
period is not. It's not like the same week every single month.
Yes.
It's not
Yeah.
always consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I definitely did learn that. I knew that much.
Yeah. So there's 4 phases to the menstrual cycle. The first one is the menses phase. This begins the first day of your period. This is when the lining of your uterus sheds if pregnancy has not occurred.
That's the eviction notice.
Uh-huh. Most people bleed from 3 to 5 days, but a period lasting only 3 days to as many as 7 days is not abnormal. Which mine usually lasts around 7 days.
Okay.
I did want to say before I keep going, I did get all of this information on menstrual cycles from myclevelandclinic.org. Their article on menstrual cycles.
Okay.
So, the next phase is the follicular phase, which begins the day you get your period and ends at ovulation. So this does overlap. The follicular phase does overlap with your period. So
Okay.
it starts pretty much around like it starts the day you get your period and ends at the end of ovulation. So this is why you think like the ovulation cycle doesn't like this would contradict the statement.
Yeah.
The ovulation technically starts like right after the follicular phase, but the follicular phase is preparing for ovulation.
Yep.
So
it was 2 different processes entirely. They just happen to be happening at the same time.
yes, but ovulation is not happening at the same time as your period. This is just the preparation
Okay.
for ovulation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So the level of hormone estrogen rises, which causes the uterus to thicken and grow. Another hormone called follicle stimulating hormone causes follicles in your ovaries to grow, which is the preparation for the egg. During days 10 to 14, one of the developing follicles will form a fully mature egg. So, this is around day 10 to 14 is right before ovulation.
Okay.
Gotcha. You're following?
I am.
Because this is a lot of information.
I got it. Just don't test me on it.
I'm not gonna. Ovulation occurs roughly, the next phase is ovulation, I should say. This occurs roughly at about day 14 in a 28-day cycle. This is like a, air quote, normal 28-day cycle. There's a lot of different definitions of normal, but this is like the most, like, I guess, how do I say that?
Are they not in pain?
Average. This is
Okay.
the average, like, menstrual cycle.
Okay, so question about this phase.
Yeah.
So this is when they're in ovulation, right? This is when they can get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Do some women, I'm assuming not all because all women are different with this kind of stuff.
Right.
Can some women have a higher like sex drive during this time?
Yes.
Do all of them do that or just some?
Not everyone, but there is a chance of, like, having a higher sex drive.
And like cats, for example, when cats are in
Yeah.
heat,
Yeah.
that's what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, because your body's preparing for a baby, so, like...
This is like a primal
yeah,
process.
yeah, basically. So ovulation is basically, like, the egg ready to be fertilized.
Yeah.
So your body's going to be like, oh, we want to fertilize this egg. Let's have sex. So
Yeah.
they produce those hormones, obviously, so that way you would want to have more sex to be able to produce
Okay.
a baby.
Interesting.
Got it?
Got it.
I actually have a note on that, too. I was going to tell you about it.
Beat you to it, Pokey Bear.
So to continue with ovulation, it's a sudden increase in another hormone called luteinizing hormone, which causes the ovary to release the egg. This is what causes ovulation.
Okay.
So ovulation happens almost immediately after the luteal phase. Not the luteal phase, the follicular phase is what I meant to say. There's so much going on right now, sorry.
So many phases.
So many phases. Okay, then the luteal phase. This lasts from about 15 to 28 days. Or no, let me rephrase. The luteal phase lasts from about 15 to day 28. So
Okay.
day 15 to day 28. So
And the ovulation phase,
is like...
are they overlapping?
No, because ovulation is like a day. It could be like a 2-day to 3-day long process.
Oh.
It's a very strange concept because if you don't understand how to like track your cycle, which is why I have an app, it estimates ovulation to be like a week or so after the last day of your period. But there's a potential that all that week you're fertile. But there is a specific day that ovulation happens. It's just like you have to be able to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, like, people who experience pregnancy, they can plan this stuff out with that tracker, or just naturally they could be like, okay, this is the day, let's go bang. Or alternatively, this is the week, let's not bang this week.
A really, really, really good example of this is Friends. You talked about wanting to watch it. I'm going to spoil just a tad bit for you. I'm not going to say the characters' names or anything, but there's this point in the show where one of the characters is trying to get pregnant, and she's trying to, like, follow her cycle. So one day she goes up to her husband, she says, it's ovulation day, let's baby time, like, let's go.
It's baby time.
Literally, like, before, after, during, like, literally any time they can have sex. They were trying to have sex on that day because it's ovulation day. She was tracking her cycle to like a T because that's how it was in the 90s. You know, they didn't have apps like we do now.
That sounds so fun.
Right. Well, anyway. Another discussion for another time is the fact that trying for a baby could take the fun out of sex for obvious reasons because there's an end goal of like producing something rather than fun.
I feel like, me personally, when it comes to sex, I can't force that, you know?
Yeah, it's more of like a chore.
If I want to have sex, we gonna have sex. But, like, I just can't imagine having to just, like... could you imagine sex being a chore? Or it being your job? Oh, my God. Like, fucking...
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Giving credit to those sex workers because that cannot be enjoyable at all.
Not for most of it, I don't think. Some of those clients probably are really enjoyable.
Well, I mean, yeah, I just can't imagine...
No, I get you.
Like, enjoying that job.
Yeah.
But you gotta do what you gotta do.
Okay, so, to finish out the luteal phase, the egg leaves the ovaries and begins traveling through the fallopian tube to your uterus. The level of progesterone, another hormone, rises to prepare for the uterine lining for pregnancy. If the egg becomes fertilized by the sperm and attaches itself to the uterus, or the uterine wall, which is called implantation, the egg and sperm mix, I guess, which would be the zygote.
Yes.
The zygote attaching itself is called implantation. You become pregnant. If pregnancy does not occur, the estrogen and progesterone levels drop, and the thick lining of the uterus sheds during your period. So this is the full cycle.
Eviction notice.
Yeah, literally.
Yes.
The menstrual cycle can start around age 12. However, it is possible to begin as early as 8 years old or as late as 16 years old.
Okay, so 8-year-olds can get pregnant?
Yes.
That's...
We're seeing more and more younger
There's got to be like you mentioned, like, body mass is a factor that can be a risk factor. Those 8-year-olds, there's no way, like, any of
those
them
8-year-olds are not
deliver
having
that baby.
sex. So,
Wait,
I
what?
hope they're not having sex. And if they are having sex,
they shouldn't be.
It's usually an underlying reason, which we're not going to get into that because I don't really want to talk
I'm
about
taking
sexual
a class
assault.
on that kind of stuff right now.
Don't want to discuss sexual assault or anything regarding that because sensitive subject.
That is my area of
It's
research
not-
this semester.
Right. We already talked about miscarriage. We don't need to talk about that right now.
Yeah, that's even...
I will get into that in a later episode if we choose to move on with this, because you have extensive knowledge on assault
Yeah.
and such.
You
because
word
you're
it like
taking-
I'm a victim of assault.
No, I meant...
That's a story
he's
for another time,
taking
too.
a sexual assault class. Anyway, so menstruation stops at menopause, which occurs around age 51. It can occur any age a little bit older or a little bit younger. It's usually defined as the stopping of eggs, so like the stopping of production of eggs.
Yeah.
And the stopping of period, essentially, because once the eggs stop producing, your period typically stops, and it has to be characterized by a year of not having a period. So you have to be period free for a year to be in menopause.
Interesting.
Because there is some times where like
You can go a few months,
you can go
but
a
you're
few months
still
without
not in
having
menopause.
a period. Yeah, exactly. Because there was this lady that I didn't know her. I think this was on a show that I saw. Maybe I did know her. I don't know. But she thought she was in menopause. All of their kids had just like grown up and left like their house because they were grown up.
Mm.
Her and her husband were having sex one day, and then like a little bit later, she was like, "Damn, I kind of feel sick." She took a pregnancy test because her daughter told her to, and she was like, "No way, I'm in menopause." And she took a pregnancy test, and sure enough, she was fucking pregnant.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's older too, that's one of the risk
She was
factors
like
for
42.
miscarriages. So
She was
that's
like
gotta
42,
be...
and she had thought she was in menopause, so they weren't using protection or anything.
Sequel. Another
Yeah,
baby.
clearly.
Yay.
So she was like, "Dang, I did not know that." So, some of the symptoms of periods include mood swings. I don't want to say mood swings. Mood changes, because mood swings is like a
There's
negative
a lot of hormones
connotation.
going on in your body
Right,
during that time,
exactly. It's
which
not
can
really your
affect your
fault.
mood.
It's not really your fault. Trouble sleeping, which my experience, whenever I am about to start my cycle, like in the PMS phase, like premenstrual cycle, or premenstrual syndrome is what it's called. I struggle to get up in the morning, which I don't usually struggle to get up in the morning, but like I struggle to get up because I'm like super tired. Like I wake up and I'm just like still so exhausted, even though I'm well rested. And that happens throughout my period week. Anyway, headaches.
Relevant information for today.
Yeah. Headaches, food craving. He's talking about the fact that I overslept this morning, but that was because I didn't get home until 2 in the morning.
So did I. We
I
worked
know
together.
You did. I know you did, but you miraculously woke up for some reason.
Yeah, that's true. My alarm didn't even go off.
Yeah.
I'm superhuman.
Yeah. Maybe. So the next thing could be headaches, food cravings.
Yes, I've heard of those. I have heard that.
I have severe cravings all the time, and then I eat.
Do you have a common one?
I eat so much.
Or is it just like random shit?
It's just random stuff.
Okay.
It's random stuff all the time. Bloating, breast tenderness, so like just like sensitive breasts, and acne.
Okay, you know what? That does make sense because one of our coworkers, Marissa, she came up to me last night.
Yeah, we were
and
actually
she was
talking
like,
about it. Yes.
She was like, "Oh, my boobs hurt. I'm either," she said, "I'm either pregnant or about to start my period." And I was like, "What? I didn't know those two were like connected
and
like
I'm
that."
actually so glad that she brought that up, because we were talking about it yesterday, and I was like, "Girl, I get you so bad," and you were just sitting there, you were like, "What the fuck?" And you were so confused.
Well, I mean, I was making jokes about it above
Yeah.
all else because
Yeah.
I wasn't like, I definitely was a little confused, but
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, getting into, we're closing out the symptoms section, and we're moving on to tracking your period. I
Okay.
personally do not use a physical calendar. I don't know how people do that. I don't. I use my apps. I can't live without my apps.
One of them is called Flow, right?
Yeah, I don't use Flow anymore because I got scared whenever all of that Meta stuff was coming out. Like, there was a thing going on a little while back. It was it was whenever the internet was like being threatened to close or whatever, or like information, like the internet security or whatever.
Okay, I thought you just believed some
No,
random
you know
ass
what I'm
like
talking
Facebook
about, though?
mom's minion meme that said that you couldn't use that app anymore because
Do you
like
know what
Chinese
I'm
people were
talking about,
spying
though?
on you.
Like 2000.
No,
like,
actually,
this
I
is
don't.
like 2018 era. Like,
Oh yes, dude, I remember that. It was because of that one dude. I forget his name. I remember all of that. Yeah, I literally had to do, like, my high school. We had this like I was on the speech and debate team, and we would have these little debates over that thing all the time. And I've forgotten all of it since I didn't care, but I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I don't remember what it was called, but it was like the internet was like turning off its security settings or something.
Yeah.
So they were just going to share all your information. It is kind of like Facebook momish of me to believe that, but I did delete Flow and I got Stardust, which is a more like, I guess, cryptid tracker, which I don't understand why I would be terrified for people to know my period like flow.
Yeah.
I don't care that they know about my period
Someone
flow.
just
I
looks
think
at
I
your
was
phone
scared.
and is like, she's fertile today.
I think I was scared because this is so Facebook mom of me, but I think I was scared because I did like read something somewhere where it was like they're gonna use our period trackers to know when we're ovulating, and then they're gonna implant us and like get us pregnant. I was
Implant? They just shoot sperm out of the phone.
That's why it's so ridiculous, so ridiculous. That's why it's so Facebook mom of me that I even did that in the first place.
You were 15 years old. You were capable of
This
like
was like sort of recent.
critical thinking skills.
It's a lot. We don't need to go into that. Anyway, so how you track your like period using a calendar would be you mark the first day of your period on the calendar with an X, and then you keep marking it with an X until your last day of your period, like once it like stops, and then you just repeat that over the next few months.
Okay, trying to like understand the pattern and what pattern you generally follow. Because do you generally like, let's say?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty consistent.
Yeah. So okay, so it's consistent like that. So like, let's say your period lasts 8 days every month. Because it's usually gonna be 8 days, but I'm sure it can be like 11 just sometimes.
Your period? 7 is like the like normal max. Like so
Okay.
if you go above like 7, like 8 to 11 days, like that's like contact your doctor because there's
Contact your
something
doctor
abnormal.
because your body's torturing you. Please get help.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Because that's what birth control is used to help like regulate periods and like even stop them sometimes because they're so
Should've done
painful
a
for
unit
some
on birth
people.
control because I kind of forgot about. Because I don't know much about it. I just know that like a lot of women take it, even though they don't necessarily not want to get pregnant. It's just like it helps them with like other things.
Right. And
The title is so misleading.
the birth control discussion alone could be a separate episode. We
Yeah,
just
because
don't
there's
have time
so
for
much
it.
on it.
We do not have time for it.
Do you
but
take
yeah.
birth control?
No, I
Okay.
don't. I've thought about it, but I'm scared because I take
She is raw dogging her menstrual cycle.
I take an I don't take an SSRI, but I do take ADHD medication. And I have this chronic anxiety where I'm afraid to take anything with this medication because not that it's going to kill me, but because I'm scared to and I haven't talked to my doctor about it yet.
Yeah.
But again, that's another discussion for another time. I just have a lot of anxiety, especially around medical things. But we don't have to talk about
You're
that right
taking
now.
medication for your anxiety, so it's supposed to be gone, and it's not gone. You're still
I'm not
anxious.
taking anxiety medication.
Oh, never mind.
This is ADHD medication.
Different. You'll have to pardon me. I am unmedicated entirely, which is probably not a good thing.
Probably not.
We raw dogging every day of our life, sister.
Period. Anyway, so like I was saying, like there's other ways to track your cycle, such as like apps, and it tracks your symptoms. It can track your cycle itself. It can track your ovulation. You can also like log your activity, so like sexual activity and stuff like that. And not that it really matters, but some people like to
on
know that.
on your app, you could just randomly put like, I had sex just now.
Yes, like yeah. On Flow, one of the things, so like it's different, like so you put different like signs and symptoms, and if you go back to the calendar, you'll see like it doesn't show you like the signs and symptoms, but it will show you like a shape, so like a star for fertile window.
Okay.
A star for the fertile window, a heart for sexual activity, and different like so. One thing that Flow does that I actually did really like, I think it was funny, was like the flow rate. So how much you bled was a blood drop. So it was 1 blood drop, 2 blood drops for medium flow, 3 blood drops for heavy flow.
Okay.
And it was really funny because they would do that on every day. Like, if you tracked it. Because you
Yeah.
have to actively track that. They don't know that you're bleeding heavy or not, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway. Yeah, it does track your... It does, like, a little heart on the day.
Okay, so what's with the what's the general truth behind having sex while you're on your period? Because I know I've heard like people say that it's not a good idea, and then I've heard other people say that it doesn't matter.
It really just depends on the person.
Okay.
So, like, I don't mind having sex on my period.
Right.
But I do mind having sex on my period whenever it's the first or second day because that's my heaviest flows.
You personally, or is that like a pretty
Me
consistent
personally.
thing? Okay.
Me personally. It just depends on the person. There's like some people that prefer not to at all because they think it's gross.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's your body, your
Yeah.
choice. But me personally, I don't mind. It's really up to the person. It
Yeah.
truly is. But there is no like negative connotation behind it. Like I don't think there's anything inherently bad about it.
Yeah.
It's also just men and partners not really understanding what a period is and thinking, ew, that's gross.
Yeah, I don't understand why people like. Okay, there are aspects of it that do just genuinely sound gross to me. Like when you mentioned that there's like
Ew,
part of
yeah.
the tissue in the blood, I was like, ugh. Like that just gave me the
That,
heebie-jeebies.
yeah, no, I
But
get it.
it's still something that needs to be talked about the
Right,
same way
like,
that like men's health needs to
I'm
be talked
sorry
about.
that your partner is bleeding and having a period. It's not like you are.
Yeah.
Anyway, my partner thankfully does not care.
My partners thankfully will never have periods. Yay, good for me.
They are, however, men. Just kidding.
I'm going on a date with one tonight.
Anyway, that's pretty much wrapping up the menstrual cycle, which is all of what I had to tell you today.
Yippee!
Do you have any further questions or anything that you want to ask?
I think I've been able to ask basically everything that I wanted to cover. Or I wanted to get covered.
Yeah?
I feel very educated today.
I'm so glad that I can educate you. I hope.
I will never apply this knowledge towards anything, but I have it now.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, now at least you can understand your female friends and coworkers and peers a little bit better.
Knowledge your own girlfriends.
I'm about to
and
like
maybe-
mansplain to
yeah.
women. I'll be like, I learned this. This is how vaginas
you
work.
can even mansplain it. You can mansplain it to your male friends who might say, ew, gross,
Oh,
or they're
yeah, that's
overreacting
true.
because they don't want to listen to women
I'll bring it
sometimes.
up in bed with Matt tonight.
Oh my god. Like he would be asking about a period. I think that's the last thing that he would even ask.
I don't remember. I think he told me he tried to date a girl one time. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's
crazy.
giving beard.
Anywho, I think that's all we have for today. Unless you have any more like questions or anything that you want to talk about?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I think that's it for us. Well, I truly hope maybe this was entertaining. I have no idea because
I was
obviously
entertained.
I'm so glad that you were, but that's not the listener. I'm just kidding. Sorry, that was me.
Give her an A on the project. Lord knows her GPA needs it.
I do not. I have good grades. Anyway, I truly hope that this was sort of entertaining, possibly educational, opened up discussions of conversation. I enjoyed doing this. I might actually, we might consider doing a podcast if this is any good, if people actually enjoy it, because I will be putting a QR code up in Gerard.
To listen to this?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yup.
God. Okay.
It's
I
not
didn't
just
know you were
Whitney.
going to do that.
It's not just Whitney that's doing it.
No. Okay.
Anywho, if this was successful, I would like to hear feedback from people. I will try to figure out a way. I might post this on YouTube. Just post comments. Let me know how you feel about it. I do genuinely. I love critical.
Critique.
Yeah, I like being critiqued. Basically, I like.
Criticize me, please. Don't criticize me.
I like
Criticize her.
positive criticism and just criticism in general because it genuinely helps me be a better person.
Yeah.
So if you do have any criticisms, constructive criticism.
Yes.
If you have any constructive criticisms or anything that you would like to tell me about, please do so. But otherwise, I hope you have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.